Hello everybody, this is Phoenix Cindy, and welcome back to another devlog. It's been a while, and I know it's been a while. It's felt like years, and I know it's felt like years. All because of one animation I will get back to later. Essentially, this devlog is about the basic movement animations. If you didn't know already, Lizargon is the sort of game I'm developing as a passion project, or as a hobby, or whatever you want to call it. It's honestly been really fun, except for a few moments. But it's been fun. Essentially, its movement is divided up into three sort of segments. It's basic movement, advanced movement, and elemental movement. The basic movement is what you normally see in platformers. You know, your run, your jump, your crawl, your wall jump. All that fun stuff. There is the advanced movement, which is what really makes Lizargon stand out, in my opinion. It has your dive roll, your dive jump, absorb jump, multiple wall jumps. It's a lot. I won't explain it all here. You can go check out previous devlogs, or I will probably tell you in the comments if you ask for it, because they're quite a bit. I'm not going to explain them here. This is about the animations for the basic movement. And then the elemental movement is just sort of the abilities you gain along the adventure, like the Golem's Grasp, the Serpent Strings, the Griffin's Glide Suit, and the Dragon's Dash. There's also combat, which that is something completely different. So I will sort of do a disclaimer. This is not an animation system. These are only the clips that I have. The clips, however, once I have them fully done, I will combine them all into the animation system that will be fluid and nice. But for now, these are just the clips. So first of all, we have the idle animation. This one is just when you're standing still doing nothing. You know, effective, simple. However, it does have a little special IK system. So this IK system will put its feet according to the terrain. So like, okay, you're standing on a cliff, it will try to put its feet on the cliff side. You're standing on a slope, it will put its feet on the slope, etc., etc., etc. Pretty nice. It's a pretty small detail, but in my opinion, pretty necessary for when you're just sort of standing there or when you're doing anything else in the game. That is the IK system. So next up, we have the run. This one is also pretty simple and effective. It is just when you're running in a straight line. I tried to make it so that it would work at multiple speeds. However, if I do need to come back and make a really fast running animation or whatever, I can. But for now, it is just, hey, you're running like this. It puts its feet with the IK system when its feet get close to the ground. Pretty simple, pretty effective. Then there is the sliding animations. There are actually two sliding animations. The left slide and the right slide. Why? Because Lizargon is not at a 90-degree angle. If it was at a 90-degree angle, it'd look like this. Ugly and hideous. So instead, its model is at a 50-degree angle, just to make it so that it actually looks artistically pleasing. However, because of that, if I made the special slide, it would look ugly from one side and okay on the other. So there are two slides. There is essentially no difference between them. It is just, hey, sliding in the left direction has its arms like this and its legs like that. Right direction, it just sort of reverses which arms farther out and which arms further in, etc. Its IK system is the same as the run and the idle, just its feet are moved a lot more forward over, so it actually looks like you're sliding and not just gliding over the ground. Then there is the jump. The jump is actually not going to be really jumping, if that makes sense. Essentially how the jump works is that it will only play for a very small moment when you first start a jump. How this works is that it points in the direction that you are going in. So essentially you're doing a dive jump, which sends you flying forward. It will point in that direction. One, this makes it so I don't have to make multiple jump animations for every single special jump that there is, because there is a regular jump, a dive jump, absorb jump, and a million different jumps. But also, it helps with precision. Right when you jump, you can see where you're pointing and know exactly where you're going to go. This will help so that you can just react quickly and be like, okay, I'm jumping in this direction, I need to make a little adjustment, or okay, I'm going straight towards the enemy, I can do an attack. So yeah, in my opinion, win-win. I don't have to do as much work that's unnecessary, and the player can actually understand what's going on at really high speeds. That is the jump. The jump will then transition into whatever other state. So it could be a wall jump, it could be a fly, a fall, etc. That transitions to the fly. The fly animation is essentially when you're moving upwards, but not doing anything special. Usually followed up after a jump. So like, okay, you just did a Dragon's Dash upwards or whatnot. You're now flying upwards into the air. Simple fly animation. Done. This one doesn't have anything special, it's just animation. The fall is really similar. It is simply, hey, you're falling down, not doing anything special, not doing a dive or anything like that. It is just falling. Simple animation. Honestly, one of my personal favorites of the animation clips I've done so far, but when I get further into the advanced movement, that might definitely change. Then there is the land. The land is similar to the jump, as in it really doesn't show up for that long. It is simply, bam, you hit the ground, do the land pose, and then transition over to the run or the idle or whatever other thing you're doing. Pretty simple, pretty effective. It uses the same IK system as the idle, the run, the slide, etc. Now, the fun ones. The ones that took me weeks to do. I will explain what they are, and after that, I will explain how painful they were to get. There is the crawl. It crawls just like a lizard would. I'm sorry, I was tempted to do, a regular crawl, sort of crouching down, but that just wouldn't make sense. It's a lizard. It has to crawl like a lizard. There is no other choice. It's either make it crawl like a lizard, change it completely from a lizard to a human, which the whole concept art and everything else planned out is already lizards, so why change it? Or just create that dissonance between a lizard and crawling. So no, I wasn't going to take it. I was not going to take it. And oh boy, I paid the price. The crawling, essentially how it is just sort of the left and right motion. I can't freaking speak. The left and right motion of a lizard. It does its sort of arm thing and leg thing where it sort of reaches out, grabs more terrain, and yada yada. Just like a lizard. In my opinion, it turned out really nice. It also adjusts with the terrain, which is the most painful part to get working. But I actually got it working. It adjusts with the terrain accordingly. It will sort of curve up with the terrain or curve down with the terrain, depending on what you're doing. And if you're on an edge with no terrain present, it will just sort of look upwards. So, there is the crawl idle. Same thing, essentially. No, absolutely not. It actually was a lot easier. It was just, hey, you stand up, or not stand up, what am I even saying? You sort of stay in a straight line, all the legs and arms on the floor, and then the crawl slide, essentially same thing, just the arms moved up a lot more forward, and a lot more sort of curved pose. I will try to explain the nightmare of the crawl. It all begins with the reverse skeleton. The reverse skeleton is a system I built for the animations of Lizargon. Essentially, the crawl animation, the swim animation, the dive roll, and all that fun stuff. However, it is being used for the crawl. The reverse skeleton essentially works as so. There is the head that rotates, and the rest of the body rotates sort of smoothly as a little snake or lizard or whatever you want to call it. This is the start. It does the sort of left and right motion of the reverse skeleton, and then it puts all of those side-to-side rotations into the crawl reference. This crawl reference is essentially just a straight line, only side-to-side rotations, nothing else. The reason why I did this is because when you're doing things like doing a dive roll and immediately going into a crawl, I can't have it all in the reverse skeleton. So the reverse skeleton has to only transition its side-to-side rotations into the crawl reference. So that when you're doing a roll and then transitioning straight into a crawl, it can actually be like, okay, here are only the side-to-side rotations, nothing else. So the side-to-side rotations. Then the crawl reference gives its information to the actual crawl skeleton. This thing is where the magic happens. It copies over the side-to-side rotations and then pitches accordingly to match up with the terrain. This was an absolute nightmare to get working, but it actually works. I didn't get it first try, but it works. Yipper-doo. Time for the advanced movement. Luckily, these ones shouldn't be too bad. There isn't anything insane like the crawl. It is just simpler. Okay. It's not simpler. What I'm trying to say is that there's nothing nightmarish like a crawl trying to get a side-to-side smooth rotation working with terrain along with arms and legs. It is simply, hey, you're rolling? Okay, here's reverse skeleton, make it spin, the rest of it spins. Perfect. Here's a swim, make it little wiggle, it wiggles. Perfect. So the advanced movement animations shouldn't take me as long. Famous last words.